Friends, today we are going to talk on or discuss on concept of ecology and ecosystem with focus on ecosystem structure. This session is for the program Postgraduate Diploma in Sustainability Science, and it's part of MSD 012 Ecosystem and Natural Resources. As in ecosystem and natural resources, the major focus of this course is on the concept of ecosystem and natural resources and present status in terms of quality and quantity. So, in the first session today, we are going to look on the basic concept of ecology and ecosystem with a major focus on ecosystem structure. This term ecology is derived from two Greek words. Oikos means house or place of living or living flesh. And under this word logos means study. If you simply look into the meaning of this Greek word, it means that study of house or a living flesh. The term was first coined by academic Ernst Haeckel in 1869. So, if you look into the simple meaning, what I mentioned, it is study of the interrelationship of organism with their natural environment. Because when we study a living place or a house, if you look into a house or living place, you will find out different members. So here, the members is the organisms and the structure is natural environment. So in other words, it is relationship between, if you look into from that, what do we visualize in a place of living or in a house, we can have, or we have, two major components, the biotic and the biotic component. So, it is a study of relations between the biotic and abiotic component. At the same time, you will see this biotic component also interact with each other. And so, it is also the study of relationship between biotic and abiotic component, biotic and biotic component of the ecosystem. E.P. Woodham, the famous ecologist, he defined this ecology as study of the structure and function of nature, which includes the living world. And to study those structure and function or the relationship between different component or among different component means biotic abiotic or biotic biotic relationship, there must be a fundamental unit. So Woodham refer ecosystem as the basic fundamental unit of ecology. And practically, this ecology involves, as we are trying to study or study the relationship between those components, it's involved collection of information about those components, especially living organism and their environment, and looks into the pattern of distribution of those components and their abundance and adaptation to the changes in environment, and try to explain how the pattern exists in that particular place of study. So when ecosystem is the basic unit of ecology, what is ecosystem? Technically, the ecosystem refers to a whole community of organisms and its environment is 1 unit. And this term was first coined in the year 1930 by Roy Cleffan to mean the combined physical and biological components of an environment. But later on, in 1965, British ecologists ultimately refined this term, what we understand today, which we are explaining in the later stage of the session. So in simple words, when it is a unit, a piece of land or place of living place, it can be defined as a piece of land or water body where the life continues without the need of human support or intervention, means to live in that particular piece of place in its own natural way. So if you look, we'll find forest a distinct characteristic, that's ecosystem, which is dominated by trees, grassland dominated by grass, pond, water body, in aquatic body we'll see small water body, pond, lake, coral reefs. They provide, and they are the examples of natural ecosystem. And in case of human-made ecosystem, as we see the cropping, agriculture, the cropping system, the farming system, the croplands, they are also an ecosystem. So when we try to understand this basic unit of studied ecology, we have visualized different level of that components or member in that particular unit. So the simplest level of organization in any of the ecosystem, it may be in aquatic ecosystem, it may be in forest ecosystem, that is in organisms. Like if you look into forest, plant, any plant, animal, or microorganism that inhabits in that ecosystem. The another organization you will see is a population that include all the members of the same organism that live in a particular place at one time. And those populations in a place at one time, you will find those populations in different groups with different phenotypical characteristics, like grasses, then in plant also, trees, herbs, stuff. So all the different populations that live in a particular area that make a community. And there we find that there is a physical location where the community lives. That physical location of a community is called a habitat. Then if you look, the ecosystem, the level, if you look in a global context, and where the organism live, if you look into her level, then this ecosystem is in turn is a level of organization, and that organization higher scale is called biosphere, the living sphere. So in other words, we can say that an ecosystem is the basic functional unit of the biosphere. And if you look into some of the existing ecosystem, like terrestrial, aquatic, and so the major terrestrial ecosystem of the world that extend continuously, means with their group of climax biotic community in large vast area are called biomes. Some of the example of terrestrial biomes are tundra, taiga, deciduous forest, tropical rainforest, chaparral, savanna, grassland desert. So this extension of biomes, and that is determined by climatic graphic factors and its location, means from point of geographical location, and the other factor like geomorphic factors. So this is what These are the basic concepts which we need to understand when we're trying to study ecosystem or we're trying to learn about the ecology. So at last, we can define ecosystem as a structural and functional unit of the biosphere. If you look into the broader scale or a segment of natural system, if you look into lower level, that consists of community of living beings and their physical environment. Those community of living beings and physical environments, they are interacting and exchanging materials between them with consistent flow of energy across the system. So, how the ecosystem is structured? Structurally, the ecosystem, it consists of a community of living organisms along with their abiotic environment. So the structural ecosystem can be described in terms of some of the basic structure like components, trophic organization, species composition, stratification, size and scale, boundaries, etc. So let us have a look into details on those basic structure of the ecosystem. As you know, the first is the component. So when we said that the ecology study of the interaction between biotic and abiotic environment, definitely this has two major components. One is biotic component, another is abiotic component. Biotic components include all living beings. Living beings like humans, animals, plants, and other microorganisms. Abiotic include all physicochemical entities like air, water, soil, rocks, minerals, etc. All this basic concept we have learned since our school days, but here we have to look from a different perspective. On the other hand, at the same time, we need to revisit those concepts today to understand the issues of sustainability when you are a student of sustainability science. Then again, if you further look, the biotic community means component of ecosystem, the first component that is a biotic component, that can be distinguished into autotroph, heterotroph, phagotrophs, and saprotrophs. Autotrophs, which is also called as producer, converters, or transducers. And this autotroph is from the two Greek words. Auto means self, trophos means feeder. On the other hand, heterotrophs we also call as consumer, which are generally animals feeding on other organisms, that feeds on other organisms. Phagotrophs are those, or we call as macro-consumer. They ingest or swallow the food. So phagotrophs are mainly the herbivores that we call as a first order consumer or primary consumers. Yes, they feed directly on the plants, as you know. Carnivores, second order consumer that feeds on the herbivores. Secondary carnivores that feeds on the carnivore. Then tertiary carnivore take secondary carnivores. So example of these secondary carnivores are wolf, peacock, owl, etc. Tertiary carnivores, quaternary consumers like animals that feed on the secondary carnivores include lion, tiger. The larger carnivores, which cannot be preyed upon further, are called the top carnivores. The another category, scientifically, if you look in technically, the another group about community is saprotroph. It's a word. Saprotroph is that Greek word. Sapros means rotten, trophos means feeder. They're also called as decomposer or reducers. Saprotrophs break down the complex organic compounds of the dead matter of plants and animals. These decomposers do not ingest their food. Instead, they secrete digestive enzymes into the dead and decaying plant and animal remains to digest the organic material. And this enzyme acts upon the complex organic compound of the dead matter. So this decomposer absorbs a part of the decomposition products for their own nourishment, while the remaining substances are added as a minerals to the substratum. That's called mineralization. And these released minerals are reused as a nutrients by the plant, that is producer. So these are the basic body community which exists in the ecosystem component. So you will see here who are the in a different ecosystem, then the primary producer, what are the primary producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, quaternary consumer in this table. Another ecosystem components is abiotic components that represent the physico-chemical environment of the earth and include different physical entities like the air we breathe, water we drink, soil that gives support to the plant and that gives support to our dwelling purpose, construction of houses, etc., as well as temperature, light, etc. These abiotic components are further classified under three categories: climatic, geographic or geomorphic, and edaphic components. Climatic component, as you know, like light, humidity, atmospheric temperature, wind, etc. Geographic or geomorphic components are land topography, slope, aspect, then altitude, latitude, etc. And edaphic components that related to the structure and composition of soil, that include inorganic substances like water, carbon, sulfur, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc., as well as organic substances like protein, lipids, carbohydrates, humic substances, etc. The second ecosystem structure is trophic organization. What is trophic organization? Trophic organization is the pattern of food relationship in ecosystem. It can be graphically represented by means of, as we technically call as ecological pyramids. These ecological pyramids, that graphical representation of ecological parameters, can be represent in the terms of numbers of individual, or when we say trophic organization is the food pattern of food relationship, then it can also be represented in terms of biomass and the amount of energy. You will see the ecological parameter number, they are illusion. You will get parameter number into two. One is both, you will get half in both upright and inverted shape. You see, here in this diagram, in the figure, in the grassland, when you talk about number, who are the producer? Grasses. Number of grasses is high. Then the second level in this structure, pyramid structure, is herbivores. That it's the producer grasses, insects. Insect is less number than grasses. So in the same way, then the next carnivores, that the frogs and birds, that fit upon the insects, they have small number. So in that way, it will have kind of pyramid as we call as upright pyramid, right? So in case of parasitic food chain, here if you look at the number that is producer, the dead body, it may be trees, it may be a dead body of either trees or animals. So here the producers is only one, right? That body that is taken by another herbivores. Okay, that herbivores is large number that fit on that decompose that herbivores that are like birds. That will be in large numbers, right? Then if you look into this, you will see this is upright. The number in terms trees is the basic, the dead body, trees in the, it is the basic the parasitic food chain. This is the basic foundation as a producer here. So this is how, in terms of number, you will have about upright and inverted pyramid. In case of pyramid of biomass, you will, in here also you will get both upright and inverted pyramid. So inverted pyramid actually you will get an aquatic ecosystem. Here in this diagram you will be able to understand very easily the producers in this aquatic ecosystem are algae, small microorganism which is eaten by herbivores, eaten by small fishes, and then carnivores. If you look into that biomass, then the biomass will be increased. The biomass of that produces small. In the same way, if you look into the terrestrial ecosystem producer, your plant biomass is larger than your herbivores, and it is this herbivores is larger than primary carnivores, and primary carnivores is larger than top carnivores. Then another is pyramid of energy pyramid, that this will always upward because energy flows in unidirectional way, and we are going to discuss in details later on. There is a rules called is 1% 1% norms. So here you will see that primary producer, that is that plant, they have maximum whatever the energy it receives, that only 10% of that energy is transferred to the primary consumer. Then of that 10%, only 10% means 1% of the first producer that received the energy, means 1% of that is transferred to the secondary consumer. So in that way, at the top carnivores, you will get 0.01% of the energy. That's why the energy pyramid is always upward. This trophic structure of an ecosystem, it can also be described in terms of amount of nutrient or the amount of living material. So the amount of nutrients in the soil at any given time is referred as standing stat, whereas the amount of living material is referred as standing crop. When we study this trophic structure, we need to understand, the transfer of this energy, the transfer of that biomass is taken place when one level is done to another level. So this relationship of energy transfer, nutrient transfer, and then biomass transfer is through food system. So this food relationship in an ecosystem is called as, it is called as food chain. So the pattern of eating and being eaten from a linear chain is called food chain, which can always be traced back to the producer. You started from the producer. On the basis of the nature of that eaten and being eaten, two types of food chains are recognized. One is grazing food chain that starts from the living green plants and goes to grazing herbivore and to the carnivores. Another is detritus food chains that start from the detritus or dead organic matter and goes through a series of saprophytic or decomposer organisms. This both type of food chain are essential, as I mentioned you that for the flow of energy and the biomass nutrient cycling in ecosystem. So in nature, various food chains are linked together and form a multi-channel pattern or complex network of food relationship, and that is called food web. Here you will see in this diagram. This cricket is eaten by mouse, that it grasses, this eaten by mouse, and it is also eaten by frog. So here this frog and this mouse is eaten by hawk, and it's also eaten by snake, this mouse. So you will see this is, this diagram shows that food web, how the structure of food web. So here also you will see the structure of food web, how the part of energy is what's going on. So you will be able to understand very clearly from this figure. The third structure of ecosystem is species composition and stratification. And what is species then? Species are the basic unit of classification consisting of a population or series of population of closely related and similar individuals that freely interbreed with one another in natural condition, but not with the members of the other species. That can show different functional state in ecosystem, and the species can perform unique function, but many times different species they also show the same function. So species composition means, when you talk about the species composition, means number of species present in that ecosystem. And this also, called as the number of species, or species composition is also called as species richness or species diversity. It means proportionate to the productivity and stability of ecosystem. And sometimes you will find out another concept that key called as keystone species, because they perform critically important role in the ecosystem. If you destroy that particular keystone species, the entire ecosystem can collapse. One of the examples is the pollinator. If you destroy the pollinator, it will be very difficult to manage that ecosystem. The fourth ecosystem structure is stratification, means presence of layers, stratum in vertical structure of an ecosystem. And you will see the structure of ecosystem, like in a forest ecosystem, you will see that plants or trees that constitute in different several height classes. In a simple way, you can find out one is grasses, herbs, shrubs, tree. In trees also different height classes. So plants belonging to same height class can be viewed as one stratum. So several such strata are found in an ecosystem. So this ecosystem, the ecosystem vary in terms of degree of stratification, which is often proportionate to the diversity, productivity, and stability of the ecosystem. So that's why stratification is one of the important structural ecosystem. The fifth one is size and scale. Size and scale of ecosystem can vary widely. We may see that in very large ways, such as tropical rainforest, Amazon forest, Sahara desert, or sometimes in a very small, such as test tube experiment of phytoplankton. That's also, we do the experiment in an ecosystem. And aquarium tank, what you have seen with plants and fishes, that is also an ecosystem. Some even you can define the extension of ecosystem as biome, although generally an ecosystem views having more defined about the environment than a biome. And a biome is a group of ecosystem sharing broad environmental characteristics. That's why in the beginning we say biome, like grassland, chaparral, tundra, they are example of biome. The sixth important structure of ecosystem is boundaries. The boundary of an ecosystem is not always easy to delineate it. You cannot easily identify, boundary. So different ecosystem, it is often separated by geographical barriers like deserts, mountain, ocean, or other isolated the natural characteristic like lakes or rivers. So as these boundaries are never rigid, ecosystems tend to blend to each other. For example, the boundary of river may seem very clear, but some species like crocodile, they can stay in the and basically most of the time they will stay in the river, but sometimes they crawl from river to the river bank, barks in the sun, like water birds. They fly, they feed from they feed in the water body, then they will stay in their nest in these trees. These are some of the examples. And tapirs, pig-like animals, they may swim in the water, but yet they live on land. So up to some extent, the whole earth, can be seen as a single ecosystem, or a lake can be divided into several ecosystems. And so the concept of ecosystem is depend on the scale you are using, the level you are going to use. That is the boundaries. So the point here, what we have studied and discussed in this discussion is that ecology is a subject that study the interaction between biotic and abiotic environment. And the basic unit of ecology is ecosystem. Ecosystem has different structure, characteristic that is defined by different characteristic, as you sometimes call is a structure of ecosystem that can be looked from, for example, like boundary, size, scale, stratification, species composition, and inside the ecosystem there is flow of this energy, flow of biomass. So that's we have discussed today. This is the basic concept of some of the basic concepts which we need to relook or remember to understand for the study on different issues related to sustainability. And this presentation is based on this references. Thank you.